released video portrays an incident of assault and violence at the hands of police. Viewer discretion is advised. This is Baltimore City Police Officer Jorge Bernardes Ruiz. In a newly released video shot in 2016, Ruiz is seen with his knee on the back of an unknown man, with a gun pointed at the man's head. His message was a clear one: concerned onlookers, adhere to my dictates or else. Here, we can hear Ruiz saying to Baltimore residents, it is documented that Baltimore police officer Jorge Bernardes Ruiz is a repeat violent offender, even without access to all complaints against Ruiz, undisclosed by BPD Internal Affairs records. 6 cases involving Ruiz are known. This video will briefly highlight 6 total cases beginning in July of 2013. Case 1, Abdul Salam, July 1st, 2013. Here Salam is seen victoriously smiling in celebration after the jury found Ruiz and 2 other cops liable for brutality against him. However, because the trial was civil, not criminal, Ruiz was not fired and he did not go to jail.
Police profiled me. They followed me in the back of my house, harassing me. Police proceeded to violently and hostilely approach my van with me and my son in it. As I announced, this was my home, guns drawn. Once they reached my vehicle, they violently pulled me out, ramshacked my vehicle with my 3-year-old son strapped in his car seat, threw me against the gate, slammed me repeatedly, picked me up by my feet, and while I'm upside down, they proceeded to drop me on my head, hog-tied me, and immediately when I fell on my head, Ruiz, in a wrestling type of action, and kind of kept his knee against my neck. I was arrested. I had no idea what I was being arrested for. My son is scarred to this day. He remembers the incident as it happened yesterday. When he talks about it, he always refers to Daddy being on the floor with police yesterday.
Case 2, Darrell Harris, profiled, as seen in this video, July 17th, 2013.
Yeah, I said, what's wrong with it? There's no such thing as improper way. I know the law. I know the law. I know the law. What's the problem? You giving me a ticket? You need my license registration? To clarify, I use the seatbelt as a ring. To clarify. What? Nah. I don't feel safe right now. Do you want me to step out the car? Do you want me to step out the car? I'll step out the car. Call the police, man. What are you calling the supervisor? I want to do shit. This is getting uploaded to the internet right now. Yeah? And we are 2 law-abiding citizens that we are getting targeted, and I don't know why.
Just 24 hours later, Bernardes Ruiz played a leading role in the police killing of unarmed Tyrone West. Case number 3, the murder of Tyrone West, July 18th, 2013.
My brother Tyrone West was brutally murdered on July 18th, 2013.
In both of these cases, when you look at the pleadings and the harsh language of these officers that have been quoted to me by reliable witnesses, the N-word.
And Killer Ruiz and Killer Chapman and the rest of those 11 to 15 killers, including David Lewis, took something from my family that they can never give us again. And that was my brother Tyrone West, one unarmed man who was brutally murdered, beat to death in broad daylight.
Mic check, mic check. This is West Wednesday, number 428. The West Coalition, along with Tawanda Jones, has been fighting for justice for Tyrone West. for the accountability of his death by the Baltimore police for 428 weeks. We are calling for justice and accountability for the police officers who were involved in the killing, as well as justice and accountability for all victims of police violence. Mic check, mic check.
Ben, you're muted.
Mic check, mic check. This is West Wednesday number 428. We are calling for justice for Tyrone West, who was killed by the Baltimore police, as well as other police officers, as well as for justice for all victims of police violence. Mic check, mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check. So, first of all, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to West Wednesday this week. And I felt like West Wednesday was definitely took with us on our trip out of town, because the folks I was with, they did so many mic checks. It was hilarious. I'm like, am I back in B-More? Uncle Bobby and them did like 3,000. Every time they wanted to crowd attention, they go, mic check, mic check. So I really felt like, you know, I was back at home. So that was awesome. But nevertheless, on a serious note, like my brother Ben just said, we are not only trying to hold the cops responsible that murdered my brother Tyrone West in cold blood on July 18, 2013, a day that changed my family life forever, literally. And but we're here for all the victims of police brutality and murder, because it just needs to stop. Like, it's a constant thing that's going on, and we get tired of every week reading a sad list, even though we don't have one available that's updated with the police brutality list this week. And I think that's strategically done, because, you know, once we be on it so much, they gotta slow it down. Because after a while, people start scratching their heads like, oh my God, like literally week after week, y'all reading 14 to 15 names. It's sad. And even though we highlight the police brutality victims, but we also know that community violence is real. We know that any murder, whether it was from law enforcement officers or from a constituent on the street, you know, it changes a family's life forever. So murder is murder. But let's be real clear, the big difference is, and I'm not trying to sound petty, because at the end of the day, when anybody loved one is murdered, whether it's by community violence or police brutality, a family member and a loved one, friends are, they're just, their whole life is just in shambles. You know, they're left with a big loss that nobody can replace. This wasn't an act of God. This wasn't something, you know, because death is hard for us to accept, period. Like, even if you got a loved one that's suffering from some type of disease or sickness, when it comes down to that final moment of them no longer being on earth with us, it's heartbreaking. But to actually have someone murdered, it is devastating. It's unreal. It's like, you know, you playing your day accordingly, or you playing your night. You just playing every moment on in life accordingly, as much as you can to the best of your ability. And then murder comes in, and it just changes your whole world, your whole outlook. It even makes you test things, and you know, it makes you test your faith, what you believed in. It makes you test yourself. It makes you also sometimes often blame yourself, like, oh my goodness, what if I would have answered the phone when they called me, or what if I would have did this, that, and the third. But it's heartbreaking. But I just wanted to be clear on the difference when a law enforcement officer murders somebody. When someone is killed by law enforcement officers, the big difference is we literally know who they are, and they hardly ever get charged. In fact, they get qualified immunity. They don't get interrogated. They get an interview. Okay? They get promotions. They get, while they're investigating, they get a paid vacation of our tax dollars and whatnot, while meanwhile we're burying our loved ones. Like, it is sad and it is devastating, because at the end of the day, we put ourselves in a vulnerable position, because at the end of the day, I think about when my brother Tyrone West was murdered. You know, he didn't just pull over thinking that, oh, my life is going to end by this one stop, because he wouldn't have stopped. Let's be crystal clear, he would not have stopped. But when he realized that, even though Ruiz and Chapman, that video you just saw, Ruiz, he literally was the first officer to arrive at my vehicle. and started killing my brother, him and his partner Chapman. And right now they got promotions. Ruiz is now a sergeant, and so is Chapman. Like they get promotions, they get big pay raises when they kill somebody, and that's horrible. It's devastating. So that's the big difference. Like if we go and we stand up and we say somebody got killed in our community, and we have the witnesses there, things of that nature, they get prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and you will probably never see them ever again. But when these killer cops murder us, if they get any time, it's surprising, like, oh my goodness, and they don't hardly get any time at all, not for murder. And I feel like they should be held to a highest standard of the law, because they're the ones that's putting us in these vulnerable positions to where as though, like I said, and my brother knew that Ruiz literally almost killed Darrell Harris 24 hours before he actually carried out his sick act of murder on my brother. He wasn't satisfied that on July the 1st, he almost killed Abdul Salam, a young man that had his baby son in the back of his car, a resident of that community where my brother was murdered. He wasn't, he didn't carry out a sick deed, because at the end of the day, there was an elderly woman in Abdul Salam case in her 80s. She literally put her body in front of Abdul and saved Abdul Salam's life, because A, she knew who Abdul was at the time, she knew who his wife was, and she knew his son. But still, he still was beat. He still was humiliated. He still went through all types of hell. Him and his son. And imagine a baby being so scared, witnessing this, and being forced to be inside of a vehicle that is now cut off. You see your father getting beat by a maniac. So again, I'll say all this took place before my brother Tyrone West was executed, right in broad daylight, with video footage, with numerous witnesses, and to this day, 8 years later, 428 weeks, we still don't have no video footage. We still don't have anything. The only thing we have and that we've been standing on is truth. That's the only thing. We never changed what happened. We didn't have an accurate count at first, but as we go along in different motions of discovery phases, we find out new things, because they're pretty much version of what happened, and that's the killer cops, and the narrative they put in the media pretty much was a regurgitation of what the killer cops said. Nothing about what the witnesses said. Let's be crystal clear. Witnesses said that he was pulled out by his dreadlocks, called the N-word on numerous occasions, and he's standing there with his hands out, asking why he's being pulled over, and he said, Ruiz and Chapman said, this is what we do to you N-words. Chapman said, this is what we do to you N-words. And Ruiz agreed and said, yeah, this is what we do to you. And the beating began. They started pepper spraying, tasing, kicking. The beating began. The execution began right there at that moment. Literally at that moment. Within a half an hour after him dropping me off, he did a day of work, picked his sister up. We're eating dinner. He get a call from a young lady in need of a ride, and he go to do a good deed. He go to do a good deed before he was going to go pick his niece up, which is my daughter, and he get executed. And then we learned that 17 killers murdered my brother. At first we kept saying 11 to 15, but it wasn't clear until a few months ago we got an accurate number. By different, like I said, filing of motions and just getting different paperwork, we now have an accurate number of 17 killer cops. Could you imagine? One, it's hard for me to imagine one or two people jumping on one unarmed person. But you could think 17? No one, I tell you, no one could have survived that torturous beat. No one. And you're talking about being pepper sprayed, tased, kicked, beat with batons, hit with open fists. Half of the killers was like 3 times my brother's size. So on the news, they try to make it seem like my brother was this big black male that had exuberant strength and all the foolishness. And then they lied for years and said that the reason why everything got out of control because Mr. West had a bulge of drugs, an alleged ball of drugs in his socks. Kind of found out, which we knew was a lie, because for one, he had on ankle socks. For two, once the truth came out, no drugs were never tested, none never submitted, and out the killers vowed themselves. But on the stand, sworn in front of a judge, asked, where did the alleged drugs go at, Ruiz? Oh, I heard about it on the news. And Chapman said, oh, I heard about it. I don't know how I heard about it. I just remember somebody saying he might have had drugs. Like, oh, you freaking kidding me? But meanwhile, you killing an unarmed man for what? And my thing is, even if he had drugs, even if he had a weapon, that is no reason for you to be judged during an execution. But the fact that he had none of the above, you sat up there and you carried out a sick act on one unarmed man, and you wonder why I'm in this game for 8 years and I'm never going to stop. And the sad part is not a game. I'm in this, but y'all treat it like a game. The reason why I say game is because y'all treat it like the Doug and Pony show. One minute we feel like we're going to get accountability, we getting so close, and as soon as some truth rate come out, y'all do this big illusion, throw us off course, and now we back at square one. I'm sick of the Doug and Pony show. I'm sick of it, sick of it, sick of it. But just because I'm sick of it does not mean I'm not going to stop. I'm going to constantly stop. And pretty much, I'm just going to go on because I can go on all night about that, but I won't. But I'm really honored tonight because I have a special guest. We have a special guest here tonight, and it's my brother Anson. Anson, and he is, oh my God, he is amazing. Like, he does amazing work. I don't know if you guys got a chance to read his bio that I posted up. This brother, like, from art to just doing everything. But the fact that he is putting together this big event, I said, you know what, I'm going to hold off on my special guests, my other special guests, because, you know, we always bring different, you know, victims on there, but we still got victims in queue because we have some victims that are part of the West Wansley family, that are part of the West Coalition. You know, the daughter-in-law, Nicole, she's, you know, she always come through. My sister Angela, who her brother was recently murdered. And I give her kudos. I'm so happy my sister made me so proud of her. We all went to our event, and a big shout out to Uncle Bobby and Aunt B for getting over 350 impacted families. Literally, they flew us in and they said that they were going to try to make this event about us, you know, and even though it was, you know, centered around us and then trying to heal up, but it's hard for us to heal. And then literally I saw moms, like literally we were all just hugging each other because when moms had to go, we had one episode, and I felt so sorry for my queen, my beautiful queen, and Baltimore definitely represented because we had a lot of Baltimore families. So as soon as I shared the news, a lot of Baltimore families, they got on it, and we all flew out. We all flew out. But nevertheless, our beautiful queen Marcellus, her son Maurice Donald Johnson was executed in her home. So our queen broke down when she was putting up her beautiful post and beautiful picture of her son when we were at the beach. She broke down and I had to hold her. And not just me, like different moms, sisters in the movement just hold her and embraced her and said, "You're not alone, queen." And she was just crying like, how can they come in her face and murder her son right there? You know, it was a call for, hey, I got a mental health crisis type of thing going on. I need my son just to go to the hospital, not executed. None of that. You come and you gun him down in her face. And this has always been the case. And then I even saw a beautiful Greta there, the mother of Kevin Cooper, a baby that was executed too in her face. And for these queens, these beautiful sisters, see, I know how I feel to lose a brother, and that was hard as hell. And I deal and struggle with that every day because he was more than a brother. He was like my mother, my father figure, my best friend, all wrapped up in one. But I couldn't dare and don't ever want to imagine losing a child. Losing a child, like I don't, so I give it up. But we had different mothers, like I said, that was breaking down. This other mother, after we did the 70s ball, we were all like going to go get the pictures to go back to our room, and she broke down seeing her beautiful daughter, and she's like, why did they kill my baby? What are we, just pictures? And I'm like, no, queen, we're more than pictures, we're more than hashtags and body bags. I had to break that speech down and let her know we're more than that. But it's just so sad, but the reality is real. So that's why I give it up to people, especially like our special guest that's ready to come on in a few seconds as soon as I shut my big mouth. But you know, just the fact that he didn't lose, or that I know of, he didn't lose anybody from police terrorism, but to actually put his life on the line and say, you know what, I'm going to do whatever I can do to have these family members uplifted, this big art show and just all the stuff, the amazing stuff that he's doing. And then the fact that Jay Wendell Gordon is going to be there, that's the warrior lawyer, but he's representing Corinne Gaines' mom. And Corinne Gaines was at the event that we was at, and to see this beautiful queen who lost her baby in the movement. At the end of the day, when I say baby, it doesn't matter how grown or old your child gets. A mother's child is always her baby. It's always her baby. So I'm not going to go on. I'm going to stop at this moment, but I definitely want us to show a lot of respect and love because I'm so excited about this Saturday event. I'm so excited when my brother reached out to me and asked me to be a panelist and be a part of this big event. I literally had tears of joy. I'm like, oh my God, thank you so much. So no further ado, our brother Anton. Mic check.
Mic check.
All right. Thank you.
Mic check.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's an honor and a privilege to be a part of this discussion. I truly appreciate it. And I truly appreciate you for being willing to participate in this event that I have planned for this Saturday. Because you didn't know me at all. I just reached out to you and I said, this is something that I want you to be a part of. Because this is about using art as a form of activism. Nina Simone said that the artist's duty is to reflect the times in which we live. And we live in some turbulent times right now. We live in a time when police repeatedly kill Black people and there is no justice. Time and time again, every other day, there's another Black victim of police brutality. And, even when we have video evidence of these police lynching our people, too often they get away with it. Too often, no charges are brought against them. And in the rare incidents where charges are brought against them, they often are found not guilty, despite all the evidence. So this is a very important issue. This is an issue that we all must be actively involved in. And that's what I intend to do with this exhibit. This exhibit is about the people. This exhibit is not about art for art's sake, or art just for sole expression. This is about using art to motivate people to get involved and engage in this movement for social justice, in this movement to end police brutality, involved in the West Wednesday movement that you have been, a soldier in, like all these, repeated demonstrations, consistent demonstrations, despite, everything. You have been at the forefront of this fight for justice, this fight against police brutality. And this, one of the goals is to inspire more people to support the work of you and other activists in our community. And it's also about honoring the victims and remembering the victims who lost their lives. Victims like your brother, Tyrone West. It's about honoring them, honoring their memory, and telling the world that their lives matter, that their lives are precious and sacred, and that they will never be forgotten. We will never forget all the victims of police brutality. Despite how many years pass by with no justice, we're not going to forget them. We're not going to forget Tyrone West. We're not going to forget Freddie Gray. We're not going to forget Corinne Gaines or any of the other countless victims who were killed by the police and there was no justice for them. So it's about honoring their memory. And it's also about honoring those who are on the front lines in the struggle for our liberation and for end of police brutality. Honoring all the activists that are demonstrating, that are holding the marches around this country and around the world. Because without the marches, without the demonstrations, there would be no investigation of the Baltimore City Police Department. Make no mistake about it, if the young people didn't stand up and take control over the streets and raise all kind of hell in Baltimore City, there would be no Justice Department investigation of the police. So we have to honor those people that participated in the demonstrations, and not just those who neatly protest and follow the line and have nonviolent protests. We have to recognize all the various forms of protest, and that's what this exhibit will do. It will display different forms of protest, including armed resistance, including rebellions. So it's going to be comprehensive. It's about honoring the sisters and the brothers, recognizing the victims that are women and the male victims of police brutality. And so there are going to be some great speakers there, such as Tawanda Jones, so that people can learn how to get involved in the movement. There will be other speakers such as Adam Jackson. He's the CEO of the Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle. As mentioned earlier,
it's 7 o'clock.
Warrior lawyer J. Wendell Gordon will be there. He will be talking about the work that he's done for the Corinne Gaines family. And there will be, the local Baltimore City branch president. He will be there talking about the work that the Baltimore City branch is doing. And there will be a special poetry performance as well. So this is something that I encourage people to come out and support. This is a very important effort, to engage people, to get people involved, because it's not enough to just sit by and complain about stuff privately amongst your friends. It's not enough to just post some story on Facebook and all that kind of stuff. It is time for activism. It is time for the people to get involved in the movement. You can't afford to sit on the sidelines anymore. Like often we hear people say, well, if I lived during the 60s, I would have been active in the civil rights movement. I would have been at the front lines. Or if I was, if it was during slavery, I would have been one of those slaves that stood up to the slave master and rebelled. Well, this is your time now. This is the time now. It's time for you to get engaged and involved. And that's the goal of this whole thing. And I'm, honored to be a part of this discussion. And I'm truly honored that you have decided to participate in the event as well. So thank you, and I really appreciate everything that you all are doing as a movement, demanding justice for the brother Tyrone West and all other victims of police brutality.
And thank you, my brother. And I love the name of what you called it. It's called Revolution on Canvas. That is like so deep and powerful, just the name alone. So and then looking at your work, it's almost like a mirror image, because in case a lot of folks don't know, because I really don't always talk about it, but my brother was an inspiring artist. Like he had been drawing since we were little kids, and this is my big brother. He used to have an art club and everything, from a little kid at the early age, I want to say maybe 4 or 5, he had started drawing cartoon characters such as Spider-Man and all the cartoon figures, and then it went from him actually sketching and drawing people. And I remember he had an art club that he would pull us all together, and it would be me, my cousin Neil, and my cousin Tavon that's no longer here. And he would always want to teach us how to draw. And he even taught me some skills to this day, because I'm nothing like him, but I can draw, because I draw things for my classroom, but I can draw pictures that I see. So if I see it, I don't care how small it is, I'll draw that little cartoon. But I'm not drawing no people, because my people look whack. I'm going to tell you that off the top. But cartoon figures and cute little stuff, I can draw real good, and the kids love it. And I draw them little things in the after school program for them to color type of things. But my whole point of me saying this was, I would always get kicked out my big brother art club. Like he always tell us, come to the table and tell us your name. And he'd have all this, my mom would always buy him a bunch of canvas and paper, sketching paper, and the nice pencils and all the tools you need. And it just he would have it set up in his room, and it was so cool. And I felt just cool just to be back there with the boys, because he never left me. He had a thing that he always wanted to protect his little sister, and you couldn't be around the boys and all that stuff. But then I'd be like, I want to be a part of the art club, I want to know. So he'd be like, say your name, and I'll say my name. I'm like, Tawanda Jones. He'd be like, okay, Tawanda Jones, you kicked out. And he would always kick me out the club. And my cousin Tavon, me, rest in peace, he'd be cracking up laughing. My cousin Neil, they'd be cracking up laughing. And I'd be so mad, oh my God, I'd be thinking this moment. But he still on the side taught me how to draw and stuff like that. So that you just brought back a big, proud memory and a joyous one for me, because I so often let the murder of my brother consume me and not actually who he was or what he did, because I felt robbed of that. You know what I mean? I felt robbed. I feel robbed that he's not able to be the excellent father that he was raising his kids, that he wasn't able to meet his grandkids, because he loved schooling his kids. That's what he did. He schooled my kids. He schooled me. That's what he did. So a lot of times I just try to I focus on what they did and trying to get accountability. But like I said, now is the time for me to memorize him in a passionate way of the art, because he loved to draw, like literally. He did paintings of my friend, and my biggest thing, he always said he wanted to do a mural. That was his biggest dream. Like, I want to do a mural in the city. And I was like, okay, once I make that connection, I got like, once they see your artwork, but that never happened. Like, we were robbed out of so many things. Like, so looking at your work, when I go on your page and I see all the work you did, like when you did the Black Panther Party, oh my God, you got to see my brother. Like, he did the Black Panther Party, but he would have been like, and I feel like his spirit is like coming through you, and it's so beautiful and it's so amazing, and it's just like, and at the same time too, it's kind of hard because I'm like, I'll start getting sad all over again, so it's real emotional. But I just want to, like I said, thank you for having this and doing the art to activism, because I think about my friend Shorty, who's a part of the movement, and he always believed in art and activism, because he would, when I met Shorty, and as little guys he has the biggest, he do the mic check, he'll shut everything down. Like, a mic wouldn't even have nothing, no type of power in a room with Shorty. His voice carried echoes like a lion, but nevertheless, more so his art to activism, because he always had his toilets, and he called it potty training politicians. And it's so amazing. And like, I remember the first time he came to West Wednesday, he actually hung up all the he would come to West Wednesday and look at, like, when I used to have, because at one point I had at least about 5 or 6 of the killers' faces, and I had a poster, on the posters that we would hang up. So he took pictures of that and he put them on his tour, and he hung them up on a line like outside the Northeast District, and had them hanging up there. And I'm like, what's that line? He said, he said, I'm potty training politicians. And I thought it was so funny. And then he had like the mayor up there, and it was just amazing. So I know that we can get through, like, people hear the artwork. And then I remember he had like a little dog that he would call, I forgot what the dog name is, I'm sorry, but everybody would see this dog when they would pull up, and they'd think it was a real dog, and they'd be like, and that would draw their attention. And then from that point of him getting their attention, he would say, oh, did you hear about Tyrone West? Oh, did you hear about Freddie Gray? And he'd start talking to him. So I think that's amazing. That's what I wanted to say. And I want to check in to see if any of the West Coalition members or anybody or if Hillary saw any readings online, because our brother Marcus couldn't be with us tonight because he always reads the comments and things like that. So I'm gonna do a quick mic check just to check in to see if anybody want to ask you something or say something. Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
So there are a couple of comments after you did your intro to Wanda. Bill said he's very glad that West Wednesday is still going strong more than 8 years after police killed unarmed Tyrone West, and he's honored to support this work. A bunch of people checked in. Charlene Miss Smoke checked in with a mic check. Bruce checked in with a good evening. Angela, also after your comments to Wanda, said new modern day execution, like I've been saying from day one. And then after Anton spoke, Charlene said, if the young people didn't show up the way they did in 2015, a lot of us would still be in the dark about what's really going on. So that's what's been there so far.
Thank you so much for checking in. And I see somebody's actually holding up, brother. I don't know if you can see it, but somebody's actually holding up one of my brother's artwork. That's the one that I was telling you about. That's the picture that he did of the Black Panther Party. They took a picture of it, but that's amazing, and I just think, somebody's holding it up.
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, thank you, Uncle Bill.
For sure.
Yeah. Mic check. Anybody else want to ask our brother or make any comments? Mic check.
Mic check. I just want to say one thing that I really appreciate Tawanda for allowing me to be here. My name is Nicole Peterson, and I'm the daughter-in-law of Anthony Anderson, and I'm the mother of Ajay Harad. Anthony Anderson was beat to death by the Baltimore City police in 2012, and 2 weeks later, they sent my daughter up, and they took her down for questioning for a murder they thought she knew something about, and they rendered my daughter a snitch. And instead of the police protecting her, they did no such thing, and they ended up killing my daughter 2 weeks after my father-in-law was murdered. And it's such an inspiration to me to actually be a part of this. And what a lot of people don't know is that I never met my father-in-law. I never lay eyes on this man until I see his picture after he passed away. Well, not passed away, after he was murdered by the Baltimore City police. And I feel cheated because I never got a chance to meet this man, and I'm married to his son. And I honestly believe that he would be proud of me for keeping his name alive, even though I never met him. And it's just so sad that after all these years that nobody has been held accountable for his death or the death of my daughter. And she was only 16 years old. She didn't deserve to lose her life like that. They shot my daughter one time in the head and they kill her. And I sit here when I went on the trip with Tawanda, I was able to get a picture printed of my daughter, and there's a picture of her. And I felt as though she has so much more life in her to live. And my daughter was a wonderful singer. I can't hold the candle to my daughter's voice at all, you know, and I feel as though she didn't get a chance to see what she could have become if her voice would have developed into something that would be her career. And I feel cheated, and I'm angry, and I'm scared, and I'm mad all at the same time, because you never know. You come in walking just to throw your trash in the dumpster, and a police officer come up and he had a bad day, or him and his wife got into an argument, and then he take that out on you, and then you end up losing your life, and then you be one of these names on this list that we have to read each and every week from what these disgusting pigs do to our family members, and they don't realize that it don't just affect you, it affects everybody around you, because everybody feels that pain of losing whoever it was in their life that they lost, whether it's a mother, father, sister, brother, cousin, close friend of the family. Is sick and it's disgusting. And I hope and pray to God above that this gets resolved soon, and it be justice for Tyrone West, Anthony Anderson, Ajay Harad, and so many more that's out here, that these police need to be held responsible for the things that they do. And I'm, like I said every week, I'm sorry for taking up so much time, but I just had to get that off of my chest. And to you, sir, I thank you so much for being here, for supporting us. You know, we love you. I'm sorry I forgot your name that fast that you just spoke. If you could tell me again.
My name is Anson Osaka.
I can't pronounce that.
Anson.
But much love to you, my brother. And I hope to see you again as soon as possible. Mic check.
Mic check.
And Queen, you have nothing to be sorry about. Like I said, this is our space. This is our healing space. This is our sacred space where whatever we need to get off our chest, the vent. And you know, often we was outside, and I definitely miss being outside. You know, we would let strangers get on the mic and, you know, have time and, you know, express themselves. You know, definitely you are always welcome to express yourself. And our brother name is Anson. Yeah. Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
answer that. May I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead, Uncle Bill.
I noticed when you were speaking that you mentioned there's a range of types of struggle that you're going to be upholding at the program on Saturday, and I plan to be there. And you mentioned as one of the forms of struggle, armed resistance. And I myself think that we need a revolution to defeat the system. Just like it took the Civil War to end slavery, I don't think the modern capitalists who benefit so tremendously and profitably from racism, I don't think they're going to ever give it up. So I'm curious, though, about the context of the armed struggle you spoke of in terms of the art and the speakers for the Saturday program. Maybe you could explain.
Sure. So I have a piece that is dedicated to Huey P. Newton, one of the co-founders of the Black Panther Party. And it's also honoring people that are continuing that legacy, such as and I'm going to have to say, hopefully it'll be okay to say, use some profanity. It features images of the leaders of the Not Fucking Around Coalition, which is a militia type of group that believes in self-defense of black communities from police brutality. So that's one aspect of it. So in terms of the armed resistance, that's about self-defense. Every nation in the world has an army. Most nations have armies to defend themselves. Most communities have ways of defending themselves. And it's about time for black people to exercise their right to self-defense. The time for black people laying down and allowing, brutality to continue against us without responding, without reacting, is over with. There are people that have the courage to stand up to these police. And there are people that are willing to continue the legacy of organizations like the Black Panther Party. The Black Panther Party didn't just talk about ending police brutality. They did not just wave signs and beg people to recognize that their lives matter. The Black Panther Party faced the police. They stood up to the police. They intervened. When they saw police brutalizing a black man or a black woman, they didn't just film something. They intervened to stop it. And they intervened with bearing arms. It's funny how this society, they don't have any problem celebrating the military. Celebrating, the military with your Veterans Day or Memorial Day. They have no problem celebrating the American Revolution and American revolutionaries. But when black people talk about defending themselves against state-sponsored terrorism, and that's what police brutality is. When black people talk about defending themselves against that, all of a sudden they're labeled as radical. All of a sudden they're labeled as militant or crazy or something like that, when in fact it is crazy for black people not to defend ourselves. It is crazy for us to allow this kind of brutality to take place. So this is about recognizing that we do have a tradition of self-defense and a tradition of resistance in our community. And it didn't just start with the Black Panther Party. From the moment black people were kidnapped and brought to America, you've had resistance among black people, taking up, any means necessary to get freedom, risking everything for freedom. In the words of Malcolm X, the price of freedom is death. And, there are people that are willing to pay the ultimate price for our freedom. And it just reminds me of something that the rapper Tupac said. He said, death before dishonor. So that part of the exhibit honors that tradition. And that's not to negate, other means of protest, or to say, well, marching is not enough, or speaking out is not enough. No, it's to recognize that is an aspect of resistance. That is one form of resistance. Just as the rebellions that we saw in Baltimore City is a form of resistance. And, too often what happens is we try to negate those voices. We try to silence those voices. We try to pretend like those voices don't exist. But if it wasn't for that voice, we wouldn't have a lot of the changes that we see. there would be no investigation in the Baltimore City Police Department. There would be no consent decree if it wasn't for the people on the ground raising all kind of hell, doing whatever is necessary to bring about the change. So that's what that's about. And so this particular piece not only honors, the Black Panthers and that coalition, it also honors the ancestors by having the symbols of African shields, recognizing that tradition of resistance that started from the very moment of slavery. So that's what it's all about.
Thank you.
And my brother, can you share with everybody, and son, where it's going to be held at? Because the place is going to be held at is significant to Black and brown folks. Could you tell us where it's going to be held at? Could you tell us the time? Could you tell us that if there's a price involved or not? Could you please just share that with us real quick?
Thanks a lot. So this event is free. Everybody is welcome to attend. It will be held at the mansion at the National Great Blacks and Wax Museum. So it's not actually in the museum, but it's in the mansion that's affiliated with the museum, and that's like across the parking lot from the museum. So it's on the same block, and that will be at 3:00 on Saturday. And we're asking that people come promptly, so that way we can get the program started. And again, there will be very important speakers such as Tawanda Jones. She would be one of the speakers, and the others that I mentioned before. And there'll be a special poetry performance by author Shingia Wright. So it's going to be an exciting event. And also there will be some light refreshments for people. And what I plan to do is I'm going to sell my art, but a portion of any kind of sales that take place is going to go back to the movement, go back to the organizations that's actually doing the work. So yeah, that's the rundown of the event, and the address is 1649 East North Avenue, again in Baltimore, Maryland, right next to the Great Blacks and Wax Museum. And that's, as you pointed out, that's what very significant, because the Great Blacks and Wax Museum is a museum that honors our ancestors and our elders. It honors our history and celebrates our history. And that's what this exhibit is all about, honoring the legacy of our great leaders. So this is like a mixture of the past with the present and a glimpse at the future that we can have if we fight for it. So yeah, that's what this is all about. And again, I want to thank you for providing me with this opportunity. I encourage people to like my Facebook page, the Osaka Gallery, and to follow my art on Instagram at the Osaka Gallery. And between each word is a small underscore. So yeah, that's what it's about. And I hope to see you all there.
Thank you so much, my brother, for sharing. So I want to check in with Hillary real quick to see if we have any questions or more comments. Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Tawanda, there was just one comment from Angela after Nicole spoke saying, "So sorry for your loss, Nicole." And I think people are paying attention to the thing at 3:00 on Saturday, and it's 1649 East North Avenue, correct? Okay, that's it.
And I have another question. I know that it starts at 3. What's the time frame that it ends?
So it will be from 3 to 5, and that reminds me of another. Yeah, it's 3 to 5 on Saturday, and that reminds me of another point that I wanted to raise. So this is not just going to be the reception is a one-day event. So with the speakers and everything, and the refreshments and all that. But this exhibit will continue through early November. So it will be every weekend, Saturday and Sunday from 12, I think it's from 12 to 2, each one of those days. So people will have an opportunity to visit the exhibit even after the reception. But I want to encourage as many people as possible to attend our reception so that they can hear from these powerful speakers and get involved in this very important movement.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks so much. Definitely. Yeah. So definitely appreciate you. I can't wait to be there. I'm actually thinking of even telling my daughter's coach because like I told you we had that practice, but I might have to tell her, you know, I know I just had my baby girl on vacation, but I may have to tell her she might have to miss that one Saturday practice. I don't want to take a time of when we actually put up in traffic and get there late. So this is definitely worth a call out. If I can't arrange to be there, you know, at the time frame to get to her, but I'm definitely gonna be there, and I'm gonna be on time, and I'm definitely excited to be a part of this. So I wanted to check in before we started reading our set list and whatnot. Do any of the West Coalition members wanna say anything or ask any additional questions to our brother Anton? Right here, that's not, and I love your name. Where did you get that now? Like I know your mom named you, but do you know like where did she get your name from? Anton the Saga is it something that's real meaningful? Because I know like a lot of art names had meaning behind them. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of family folklore around my last name, Osaka. You know, I'm told that it's a Sudanese name, and that my great grandfather was from Sudan, and you know, so that's the story behind my name. And as far as I know, like as far as the meaning is concerned, it's similar to like like a like English names, for instance, like a name like Smith. You know, there's no particular meaning for the word Smith. You know, it's just a name. So that's one thing that I've been told. But then also in doing research, you know, there are various meanings behind the name. Like there are different meanings in different cultures. Like in parts of Africa, it has one meaning. In parts of Asia, it has another meaning. And that's something that I really need to look more into. In terms of my name, Anson, it's really simple. Like, and I was just like laughing when I heard the story behind it. So basically, it's like mother, father, and son. So it was like and son, you know, in a shortened, abbreviated Anson. So that's where I get my first name from. But yeah, that's the story.
That's so cool. Thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. Perfect.
I
Yeah,
feel like that's really wonderful. So, because my first name, that's why I always go by my middle name. Because my first name is Japanese, but my father is from Portugal and my mother is black. So they used to always call me a salad when I was at school. They were like, you mixed up with everything. And my first name is Denikyo. So a lot of people can't pronounce it. I'm like, just call me Nicole. Because that just drives me insane when people mess up my name.
wow, that's amazing. So before we go into the sad list, I actually want to bring up my sister Tracy, and something big and powerful happened in her brother case, and I think councilmen all over different parts of the world need to take this stand. So my sister Tracy is the sister of the late Nicole Chan, and he pretty much was executed. He was executed literally like a year before he was killed in 2019. He was at a Starbucks, and literally this maniac officer literally got into an alleged altercation with him or whatever. This officer was brutal. I mean, stabbing him up. And it was to the point people like, oh, officers don't carry a knife. Well, it was proven that he did have a knife on him because it's cool on video and everything. And all the charges that they had against her brother Leonard was actually dropped. So, you know, of course, you know that when you're dealing with gang members, there's going to be a form of retribution. They're going to come back for you. And it's so unfortunate that he was in another Starbucks, literally, and they gunned him down. But the thing that just recently broke out that I thought was really interesting is, like I always say, it's not about the income, it's about the outcome. And for an actual council person to give up, to hand in their resignation, say, look, I don't give a damn about this money. And you know, councilmen, council people, they make good money. The politicians make good money. But, you know, he's an activist before he is anything. You know, he stands up for the people and all that. And this brother, literally his name is Scott Cecil. He actually handed in his resignation. He actually publicly spoke about why, and he did a great job articulating that reason and saying how nothing was transparent, saying how they was holding on to video footage, saying how he was forbidden to actually talk about, you know, Lenard Shan in front of people and everything. And I feel like the stance that he took, if I could get one person like that to actually go hard for my brother, that like literally had, when I saw that video, my sister shared it to me, I started crying. I had chills as if, because her brother is my brother. Just like my brother Tyrone is her brother. We are in this blood family that we never asked to be a part of. But that's a big shout out there now. And you know that he's gonna get retaliated on. He's actually probably gonna get blackballed because we had our pastor Steve Turner, who was an ex-cop from Baltimore City. He's been an ex-cop for over 30 years, but they did never divorce him. They never let him go. They're still stalking him. They're still preying on our brother, Pastor Steve Turner. Even though he's a man of God now, he's not with them anymore. But because he stepped up and he spoke up, you know, and something right, they're like, oh, and they try to lock him up just because he told the truth. They wanted him to lie on something. He's like, no, like, dirt is dirt. I done participated and had my part in as much as dirt as I can take. I'm turning my life around. I'm not doing it. And because of that, he got retaliated on, and they did so much stuff, and they're doing so much of stuff to our brother. But the retaliation is real. So for someone to actually take a stance and say, you know what, I don't care what you did, and then they're not the ones that was actually affected. But he said him seeing this video, how traumatizing it was when he saw the execution. He's like, 2 years are going by and they still ain't doing nothing. Like, people should be in an outrage right now. And so we're fighting and we're sticking by our sister Tracy. We love you, Queen. We're gonna fight this thing through. And I done sent it to all my national media folks. So we're gonna get accountability. And I'm trying to make her video go viral. So if you saw it on my page and I'm gonna share it tonight, please share and share and share. And if anybody knows any contacts to Murder Inc. page, we need that on Murder Inc. ASAP. We need that on any big social media platform that will actually be like, oh my God, look at this. So that way that thing can go viral. Because had it not, you go, a lot of things on Murder Inc. I don't agree with, because I don't like how they put out my cousin being murdered before my family even knew about it. I had to see it on Murder Inc. and that was disgusting. That was horrible. But the fact that they have a big following, group of people that follows them, put it on any media platform that has a big following. And I just want you guys to keep sharing that video and sharing that video. But a big shout out, much love and respect. And I'm gonna see if I can bring our brother Scott Cecil on West Wednesday to actually tell us. He's going to be one of our upcoming guests in the future, hopefully. I haven't talked to him, but I'm calling into existence because we need more people like him. Just like we know that Ryan Dorsey goes hard. Like, literally, he's a council person. Before he even met me, had it not been for Ryan Dorsey, I would have never got a chance to be at the desk of the woman that I got elected in office, Marilyn Moses, that is doing the Doug and Pony show with my family. And we know that there's no statute limit on murder, but yet she is still not prosecuted. He's killed a cop, but yet she still goes after Keith Davis Jr. It is unreal. Like, I'm not asking somebody to break the law, I'm asking you to do your job. But I said all I like to say, when somebody walks away from the job and says, you know what, I can't do it no more, that speaks in volumes. Bless his heart. He may not get his rewards down here on earth, which I'm going to call, he's going to get it, but he's truly going to get it when his time comes, because he set a high stance for anybody looking at that to say, you know what, I'm going to be like him. We need more Scott Cecils in this world. So I just wanted to say that. Mic check.
Mic check.
All right, so unfortunately, this is a part of West Wednesday that I struggle with all the times because just hearing the sad list and reading the list, it's heartbreaking because it's always somebody on the list. And even though, like I said, we don't have the updated police brutality list, we know that the police are killing us, killing us, killing us. We know in this whole entire year so far they done killed 428. And we know that allegedly 10 days that they didn't kill us out the whole entire year. It's like 10 days that they didn't kill us that we know about. Because there is stuff we know and it's stuff we don't, that we won't probably never know about. And it's just sad and disgusting, but Uncle Bill will probably talk more about that and go into details. I love Uncle Bill. He's going to tell you a story. He got everything, you know, I shade Uncle Bill. But nevertheless, before we go into the sad, horrible, sad list, just keep in mind that the names that you hear are real people. They are real family members of a family that was pretty much robbed of their loved one due to senseless violence, due to somebody not having enough restraint to say, you know what, let me walk away. But people are easy to put somebody in the ground, and when you do that, you not only put that person that you're killing, the victim, in the ground, you're putting the whole family in the ground with the victim. Because now the life that we used to live that was enjoyable is no longer. We have to find joy. Life is beautiful and joyous, don't get me wrong, but when your loved one is murdered, you are beyond, like, oh my God, you're beyond devastated, you're beyond all these things that you could never imagine, and there's nothing you could do to reverse it. And I think that's the part that we all struggle with, because I often, all the time, blame myself for killing cops. You know what I'm saying? Like, what if I would have just told my brother he could not borrow my vehicle? But I would never tell my brother no, because he would never tell me no. He was trying to do a kind act, but it's sad that I'm like, that one call changed our life forever. And the crazy part, we didn't get a call. And when I say call, I'm talking about the female that called my brother and said, hey, can you give me a ride? I'm stranded. I just got off of work. I need to get to my mom's house. That damn one phone call changed my family life forever. It took a father. It took a friend. It took the glue to my family. It took so much away. We took a big, tremendous loss. One call. And then I think about Timothy Fleming. That's our brother who was executed right in the face of his family members, including his kid. Right there. You had these killer cops coming because of one phone call from a child that, you know, thinking, okay, daddy and mommy, whatever's going on, you know, they're going to be the superheroes. They're going to come and everything is going to be fine. One call. So I said all that to say, when you hear this horrible, sad, devastating list, please don't take it with a salt of grain. Please, please, if you pray, I need a prayer. If you just think or whatever, I need you to think of ways that we can hold these politicians accountable, because they're comfortable. They're comfortable with the list going up every day. The media is comfortable with it. I think, in fact, the media loves it. They love to report these horrible homicides because they're like, oh, we haven't even reached this called quote mark of the end of the year. They're estimating how many deaths we've had, over 300 and plus by the time. But meanwhile, and the crazy part, I never thought that my cousin Tavon Anderson would be on a horrible, stinking, disgusting list. And that is terrible. That's a call you don't want to get. I don't care what time of the day, what place, what space you're in. You don't want that devastating news that your loved one was murdered. Not that they died from a sickness or whatever. You don't even want that. That's heartbreaking. But the fact that they were murdered, gone, for no reason other than foolishness, other than most of the times being in the wrong place at the wrong time, other than people just taking a stance to take away somebody's loved one, and you're killing family members. So I just ask you, please, we're going to take 1 minute before the sad list is read, but just think about it. How heartbreaking would it be if the apple of your eye, the love of your life, your everyday was no longer your same everyday because you got that devastating call? or you heard that devastating news and it was your loved one, what would you do? Maybe we might need to do that now, and maybe so many people could stop being murdered. And the crazy part, this is not a bunch, like every time I watch the news, these are not a bunch of Caucasian folks or Asian folks, because at the end of the day, I wouldn't care if they were Caucasian or Asian. The fact that they're human beings, my heart will break and shatter, because a life is a life. Despite your skin color, despite your religion, despite your sexual preferences, despite all that, we are humans. Nobody deserves to be brutally murdered. And that is just so sad and disgusting. And meanwhile, all they can do is read names off of a list or broadcast, oh, our mayor has COVID-19 and all this foolishness. And meanwhile, somebody's son, daughter is being brought, somebody's father, somebody's grandmother, somebody's wife, somebody's church member. Please, let's just take a minute to think about one minute, please, to think about what if this was your loved one. What would you do? Maybe you might get some ideas, and maybe we could shut Poopy Hall down, shut all these blocks down, or start our own Black Panther Party where we're watching in our communities and making sure nobody's riddled by bullets. Make sure that the purging is stopped. Make sure that all this stuff that can be resolved by kind words can be resolved. Please, guys, I'm just asking you, just take 1 minute. Mic check.
Mic check.
Thank you guys so much. And so whoever has to say it, let's go for it. I got a headache now just thinking about names on the list that these people should still be here, living and doing whatever they was doing before they got murdered, and they're just gone. This is so sad. Mic check.
Excuse me, I was muted. So it falls to me to have both lists tonight, the list of people who died because of community violence and the people who've died from police violence. Ordinarily, we have two different people read these two lists. And because I have both lists, and because we've mentioned the Black Panther Party earlier this evening, I want to talk about the commonality that these two lists have, the link that exists between those killed in community violence and those killed by the police. So when the Black Panther Party was active, they encouraged their members to read for 2 hours a day. And one of the authors they especially encouraged members to read was someone named Frantz Fanon. And Frantz Fanon, he was a psychiatrist, and he wrote a book called Wretched of the Earth. And in Wretched of the Earth, one of the key points he makes is when you take a subset of the population and you give them the worst schools, the most unemployment, the worst treatment by police, and on and on and on. Slap people in the face this way and that way. People get bitter and people get angry. And before people have yet achieved political consciousness and have a deep understanding of the real enemy that's causing these problems they face, people who get bitter and angry tend to lash out. And according to Frantz Fanon, often people lash out at the closest, most vulnerable target, which may be a family member, but would definitely be people in the same boat. And so Frantz Fanon says that's the essential basis of community violence, that when you boil it down, it's caused by racism. Racism leads to the mistreatment leads to bitterness and anger, and the bitterness and anger, prior to achieving political awareness of the system, causes people to be brutal and vicious with other people in the same situation. And of course, as we know, police violence is no question is motivated by racism. So that I would argue, as Frantz Fanon did, that community violence and police violence are two sides of the same coin. They're both caused, in essence, by racism. Now, Tawana, when you spoke a little earlier, I think you mistakenly underestimated the number of people killed already this year by police The number that Brother Ben gave us earlier when he was looking at the statistics, so far in 2021, the police have killed 782 people. And on an annual basis, it's about 1,100, and that's been true through the Obama years. It was true through the most recent jerk. It's true now under Biden. It's a fairly consistent set of killings by the police, about 1,100 a year, about 3 a day. We don't have an updated list for this week. The last person that we have, the name of that was killed by the police, who we honored last week, is Joseph Arbor, killed on September the 27th in Auburn, Maine, killed by the police. So for all those killed since then, we don't know the names yet, but I'll just say to honor them, Ashe.
Ashe. And real quick, Uncle Bill, I'm glad that you corrected me, because what I was doing was I had looked, because I wrote the number of West Wednesday weeks was 408, and that's where I got that number from. But at the bottom, I had the 782, so I stand to be correct. Thank you for correcting that. But I was looking at the weeks that we've been fighting police brutality, and I slipped the numbers, but we've been fighting police brutality 428 weeks. But like Uncle Bill said, it has been 782 killings that we know about.
Yeah, and you're always on point, Tawanda. I just didn't want to.
No, I'm
not
glad
get away with so many murders that not being announced.
When I was reading it, it resonated in my soul like that was it, because I thought he said more numbers, but now I'm looking at the bottom of my paper where I added, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's right. It was 782. Thank you, I appreciate that.
All right, and killed by community violence in Baltimore since last week when we made the announcements. 5 of the people have not yet been named, so in their honor, I say Ashe.
Ashe.
And we have 2 people whose names are known who were killed recently by the police. And after I say each one, if we could repeat the names to honor them, that would be very good. Killed by community violence, 27 years old, Devin Turner.
Devin Turner.
Also killed by community violence, 37 years old, Corey Harris.
Corey Harris.
And I'll just mention one more thing before getting off, and that is once a month we have the challenge discussion after West Wednesday. The upcoming one is in 2 weeks. We're reading one of the books by Angela Davis, and that book advocates abolition of prisons and abolition of police, but that's a somewhat different point of view than we've taken in West Wednesday, where we say incarcerate killer police. Of course, those who advocate abolition of the jails say we don't want to do that because we don't want anyone in jail. So we're going to have a friendly debate on that topic. It'll be 2 weeks from tonight. Anyone wants the link for the book by Angela Davis, it's online. If you hit me up, I'll send you the link. All right. Mic check.
Mic check. And I'm going to always say it. I'm be the one standing on that point, cell blocks and killer cops. That's going to be always it. But anyway, yeah, so, and it's just sad, like, for them not to even think enough of the families and trying to hide their crud in mud, for them not to even have the 5 names available of the people that was executed is disgusting to me. For the police brutality list not to show, the true killings, and we read the list and honor those that were murdered by the police. It's a shame, but it's strategically done. It's things that they want us to see and know, and there's other things that they don't want us to see and won't let us know about. So we just got to be our own conscious consumer, and we just got to be our own investigators. We just got to do what we got to do and always have each other back no matter what. And I just wanted to say I went through a incident yesterday, and I had a array of emotions, and I'm glad my sister Angela reached out to me right away. But pretty much what had happened was my daughter had called me, and she was freaking out because her tire, she thought it was a flat tire, but in fact she had a blowout, and that is dangerous. Like, so I'm like trying to get my mind together, and I'm telling her, walking her through it. I'm like, no matter what you do not step out onto that track, because unfortunately a lot of people get killed just by stepping out, trying to see their vehicle, or trying to help somebody, especially when you're not in a safe place on the highway with cars riding so fast and they can't see you, and everybody's in a hurry to get where they gotta go at. But nevertheless, when she told me that the police had pulled up behind her, then I really started freaking out. And that's sad and disgusting. Like, I really was freaking out so to the point I'm like, you know what? Oh, it's time for me to go on Facebook, because if something break out, y'all will already know what happened. I'm being transparent. So immediately I went to Facebook and I'm like, look, my daughter's having car issues or whatever, and right now she's being, pulled over by the police or whatever. But the interesting part, thank goodness that the officer, was helpful. He helped, he was like, don't worry about it type of thing. We're gonna take care of this, and type of thing. He pretty much called and he helped with the situation. He helped the cars go around, and he even helped with the guy that actually came to fix my daughter's car. And that's why I say it's real disgusting. It's real disgusting when you have, a bunch of killer cops still working on a force that makes every single body feel bad. That's why I always say I feel sorry for the few good cops, the few good men and women that we do have that exist in law enforcement, that's there for an honest paycheck, that's shamed about what is going on. But at the same time, y'all need to take that stance. Y'all need to be a Scott Cecil. I would walk away from it because it's just too much. Like, don't let that continue, because to me, if you're a part of a gang, no matter how nice you are, no matter how sweet you are, you're still looked at as a gang member. If I was a part of a gang, I don't care, I can be the sweetest, prettiest gang member, but when it goes down, you're going to say, you know what, Miss Jones is from a gang. So, we won't have no remorse. They ain't going to look at, oh, well, she's nice. They ain't going to look at none of that. So I still like to say, but it's just sad and disgusting that I had to go through all of that and not knowing if it was going to be a jackrabbit to pull up, a maniac, one of the cops that killed my brother. And then and it's so crazy because I still don't trust law enforcement officers. I don't. I'm just going to be real honest, transparent. I do not trust them. My heart level goes up every time one ride past me, one's next to me, anybody. My heart goes up because at that moment, they could play Russian roulette and take our life depending on the type of moment that they're going through. If they're in a happy mood, then we could be happy. But if they're in a sad mood and they want to be a jerk, they got too much power. And nobody should have that kind of power that they can take our life. And it's just sad, but I'm thankful, and I give all praises to God that, thank God, and I was praying real hard, like I literally got on my knees like, God, please do not let this be a jackrabbit behind my child, and thank God it wasn't. And then when I was, it was so funny because I think at one point she had, speaking, and she took me off and I was saying stuff about the police. She's like, okay, ma, it's fine. Like, but I'm going to be me. I'm like, I hope you ain't, get his down, say, take a picture of his ass. So I said, if he do something, he going to be added to my list. Like, I ain't trying to do nothing. But she was like, ma, it's fine, like, sister. She tries, so I could tell I made her feel uncomfortable because the officer that she was with was showing her respect and doing what he was supposed to do and not be a jackrabbit. But it's just so sad we got so many jackrabbits. Just like one of my brothers said, like, if you're dealing with a bunch of snakes, I'm not going to see which one is poisonous. If I see a big snake coming down the street, I'm haul-assing. I'm not going to say that, oh, maybe he don't got venom in him. Maybe I'm going to haul-ass. And that's how I feel about cops. And it's sad. But the crazy part, I never used to think this way until my brother got killed. And then I started like thinking like, and I was so tricked because I thought that back then before my brother got killed, I thought, you know what, there's a few bad, how do you always say, there's a few bad apples, but most of them are good, most of them, and that's a lie. There's a few good cops and most of them are bad. Most of them are bad, and I feel sorry for the few good ones because I know a few good cops that I really feel sorry for, that's like, that's traumatized by all the bull crap that's going on. But I just said that to say, whoever this officer was, I just wanted to say, that I am thankful that, he wasn't a jackrabbit. So I just want to throw that out in the atmosphere. And before we wrap up, I want to ask, do anybody have any more announcements or any more comments? Or brother, And son, do you want to say anything before we wrap up and close out? Mike
Yeah,
check.
I just Mike check. I just want to thank you again for giving me this opportunity. I'm glad to be able to participate in this discussion, and I look forward to seeing you on Saturday. And I thank you again for agreeing to be a guest speaker. And I truly appreciate it. So I hope that everybody has a good night. I got to run to another meeting, but I truly appreciate everything that you're doing for our community as well.
And Anton, I look forward to seeing your artwork on Saturday.
All right, I look forward to meeting you in person.
Same.
All right, have a good one.
And thank you so much, brother. I definitely appreciate you, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be a part of your powerful platform. Definitely want to thank you, man. See
Thank
you
you.
Saturday, and
All right.
hopefully we wasn't a bit too much for you tonight. So just being myself. I can only be me, and I don't speak for all the members of the West Coalition. Everybody's an individual here. I'm speaking for me, my heart. Y'all know I come from my heart. So that's just it. Now thank you again.
Thank you. Good night,
Thank you.
everybody.
Good night, my brother.
Good night.
Yeah, so that was our guest Anson, and definitely please make sure that you guys come out 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock. I'm sorry. This Saturday is 1649 East North Avenue. That's 1649 East North Avenue at 3 p.m. 3 to 5. It's only 2 hours at a time. I know people are so busy during the weekends because I know my whole entire weekends be booked up from the time I wake up because those are my only two supposed to be off days, but I'm never off because I'm always engaged. That's the time I get to do things with my children, and they be running me wild. Ma, I got a nail appointment. Take me here, take me there, take me everywhere, and I love doing it. So not complaining, but so I know how Saturdays can be. But if you can, please make sure you don't want to miss. Let's support our brother the way that he's supporting us. He's doing this real amazing work, and like I said, it's free. Well, like he said, it's free. It's not going to cost you anything, but it is going to cost you your time, which we know our time is very important. Like today was a day that we have never seen before, and unfortunately today is a day that we will never ever see again. So with that being said, I want to check in real quick and do a mic check with the rest of the West Wednesday Coalition family. Do you guys want to say anything before I do closing remarks and we close out? Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check. Tawanda, there are no more comments.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, again, I want to give a big shout out to our brother Anson, and I'm looking forward to seeing his amazing artwork, and definitely looking forward to being a part of this powerful panel. And I heard that he said Adam Jackson was going to be there, and I remember when we had my brother's body exhumed, and I went into my pocket, and I spent, it was like 50,000 plus. I want to say maybe it was 52,000 and some change or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, and then they trying to play Doug and Pony Show with me more and said I think I needed a whole nother couple of thousands of dollars or maybe 1,000. I can't remember the amount, but I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And I remember reaching out to Adam Jackson and saying like, oh my God, like I'm stressed out, and pretty much they gave me the rest of the resources that I needed. And I think it was like $1,000. I'm sure like $1,000. And they actually gave it to me, no questions asked. Here you go to Fonda. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, just being there for each other, even though sometimes we don't always agree with each other, but it's always all about being there. It's always all about being there. And in these times where things are just changing literally overnight right in front of our eyes, I'm just thinking about before 2020 hit, before the pandemic, you could walk around with face mask, you ain't to worry about, and for us to literally lose so many loved ones because coronavirus is real. It does exist, and it is deadly, and it's wiping us out. But to be actually forced, and I'm stressed out, like, do I get the vaccine? Don't I? It's just a whole lot. And just everything's just changing from face masks to you putting stuff in your body that you're not sure of, that might can hurt you or help you. You want to do everything to help the environment, just help everybody to literally, like, I've been knowing the change because they got rid of the foam plates and things like that, and I knew they was getting rid of all the stuff. But I was shocked, and I think when it happened on Friday, because I go to the I go grocery shopping every week. I got a big family. I love to cook. I go grocery shopping every week. And so the following week before I left, I went and got some things for the house and stuff like that while I was gonna be gone. And I got my little plastic bags. I was cool. And then when I went back, when the lady was like, "Oh, well, how many bags you want?" I'm like, "Why she asking?" Because normally just bag. I'm not at Save a Lot. Like I know Save a Lot. I know Aldi's where so you gotta pay for your bags. So I'm like, "Why you asking me this?" He was like, "Oh, because each bag is 5 cents." I'm like, "Oh, y'all charging for the bag?" So I had a dumb moment. And then when she put on all those paper bags, I'm like, "Oh my God!" And then for me to see, and then they don't make bags the way they used to. Because I think about like I feel like we're going back into time because I think in my mother and them time they had paper bags, but the way my mother would describe it was they were real thick and good bags. Man, these bags like a dollar bill. It's like having your food wrapped up, and as soon as the cold moistness hit the bag, people's stuff was rolling all over the ground. It's just sad. Like I understand the environment, I understand like what plastic and all this stuff does, but I'm just thinking about more so right now. What got me disgusted
It's
was
8
you're going
o'clock.
to charge people for the bags on top of not even making sure that the bags we buy are good quality. I don't have no problem with rocking with whatever we need to do to make our earth and environment safe. Let's do it, but let's do it right. Don't bull crap us. Don't play us like this. You giving us these little bull crap bags that when I say it was like old ladies, I felt so sorry. Like I went back in and I helped the lady get the food off the ground. Then I gave her um a few bucks to go and buy some more bags. Her stuff was all over the ground. And it was just sad, but these are the times we're in. So that's why I just want to say this real quick. Don't take anything for granted. The stuff that we literally think like, oh my God, she ain't done what my plastic bag. Now you wishing that I had those plastic bags again. Now before the pandemic, you used to go around and see everybody and everybody was doing good and I'm wishing I can go back. We can't go backwards, but however, we can go forward. But just know that every day is an opportunity to hit that restart button, the reset button, and just live the love, man. Love to live. Surround yourself around positive folks because guess what? Just like a yarn is contagious, negativity is too. Because if somebody is constantly pouring negativity in your space, it literally makes you feel down. I don't know about you, but if I hear somebody that's always constantly, always it sucks and everything sucks, but just know that these are memorable moments that we're never going to get back again. Let's make the best of it. Let's win this fight by holding these killer cops accountable, by holding ourselves accountable, by living to love, love to live. In the same way, my brother, depending upon if Louise is having a happy day. If he's having a happy day, then cool, you might survive one of his traffic stops. You might survive him coming into your home. You know, you might survive. But if he's having a pissed off day, his MO is get the fuck back in the house. Excuse my language. Back the F up. Do this. And he starts acting like a maniac. He is a coward. A big coward. So just watch this video. And you guys can call Marilyn Mosey, tell her to do her job, tell her no family should have to go through this. It's just sad. Like, if you can, and while you're calling her, please tell her because to this day, and I'm gonna uplift my sister, they still do not have their autopsy report. Timothy Fleming's family deserves their autopsy report. This young man was gunned down in his family home, y'all. Y'all don't know how heartbreaking it is. And that's why I commend my sister who's actually new and this is able to talk, that's able to share love. Guys, let's help Angie, let's help Shantae, let's help this whole family, guys, get this autopsy report, guys. Please just call her now and say, do your job. Give their family the autopsy. Why isn't Zimmerman in jail yet? And why you going after Zimmerman? Why aren't the 17 murderers that murdered Tyrone West in jail? Please do that. If you can't do nothing else, please do that. And keep the families uplifted. Keep our beautiful sister Nicole uplifted, her family. Just keep us all uplifted, God. And just thank you. And I'm just praying to God. And I just said God because my mind is just in deep prayer because as I'm talking to you, I'm in my own mental space now, praying to God. No family deserves to go through this. And I'm praying to God that my sister Angela and her family gets accountability. I'm praying that Gina, I'm praying that my sister Tracy gets accountability. I'm praying that my beautiful sister Greta gets accountability for Kevin Cooper. The list goes on. All the moms deserve accountability. The sisters, the brothers, we all deserve accountability. We won't stop. We can't stop until killer cops are in cell blocks. Thank you guys for your time. Mic check.
Mic check.
And Mr. West begging for his life, and Mr. Salam begging for his child to be excluded and comforted from what was taking place. Not for himself, but for his 3-year-old child.
Case number 4, Adina Britt and family, September 10th, 2015.
My name is Adina Britt, and I wanted to submit a 30-second testimonial that Jorge Omar Bernardez Ruiz is one of the 11 terrorists that came into my house performing a home invasion in September 2015, terrorizing my entire family and even holding my 12-year-old son at gunpoint. He needs to be stopped.
Case number 5, unidentified arrestee, assaulted in 2016.
I suggest you back the fuck up.
Again, this video did not surface until the summer of 2020. Case 6, Thomas McCullough, May 2016 and February 2017.
I heard my front door coming off the hinges like it exploded.
Thomas McCullough says it happened twice. In May 2016 and February 2017, Baltimore City Police burst through his green front door and raided his Pimlico home.
He said, police. They come up, shotguns, guns.
He says officers ransacked the place, looking for drugs, money, and weapons. He took pictures of the damage he says they left behind.
Tell us where the drugs are, the scales, the guns, and the large amounts of money.
Nothing was found. Now he's suing police, claiming officers, including a former member of the gun trace task force, frightened him, his wife, and father-in-law when the officers conducted what his suit calls an illegal search of his home. The owner of the house tells 11 News after the second raid, he had to replace the front door. McCullough and his attorney say they want Baltimore police held accountable.
There is a colossal breach of trust.
And McCullough tells us following both raids, no one was arrested or charged.
This all begs the question, when will Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby see the prosecution of Bernardez Ruiz as warranted?
They were the stopping officers in these so-called jump-out cars, unmarked and so forth, that stopped both the West vehicle and the Salam vehicle without probable cause. And these officers are the ones that also were joined by others, but they are the ones who initiated the stops, pulled both men out of the vehicles, and commenced the vicious activity that was thrust upon them.
And the officer Ruiz that started this attack is still working and working with promotions. He is now sergeant, but the fact that this repeat of violent offender had a history leading up to my brother. There was Darrell Harris, there was James Green, Joseph Green, Abdul Salam, and my sister Dina and her family. No one family deserves to be brutally murdered or brutalized by this repeat violent offender Ruiz. It is time we take action. The time is now.
Baltimore police officer Jorge Bernardez Ruiz is a repeat violent offender. Based on these accounts, in accordance with the law, we, the West Coalition, call for him to be fired, prosecuted, and incarcerated.
We're more than hashtags and body bags. We're more than being 6 feet in the dirt and pictures and buttons on t-shirts. Our lives matter.
For the safety of our city, the prevention of further harm, and the justice for these families, We see no other option.
And again, I'll say, the time is now.